So let's begin with our first sketch. If you have the photo, you can look at it, or I'll put it back here for a little bit longer so we can talk about this picture. So the horizon line is what we're going to sketch first. Basically the horizontal line that divides the background and the land. So we do a light line to divide your top and bottom half. And then we're going to sketch in the outlines or the general shape of the main object. So we have empty tractor or trailer. We have a few barn houses here and there. And then most importantly, this whole forest is going to be one shape. And then for the white snow, we can just leave it blank. However, if you look closely, there are some like shadows, very, very light. So we'll add those at the end. So let's begin with our horizon line. Okay, so with your lightest pencil, mine is a 3B. Just any pencil will do. Make sure you're holding it pretty lightly. So when you're holding it, you're not gripping it, but just lightly. So it kind of bounces. And then just lightly sketch that line across the middle. Making mine a little bit darker, but keep yours light. This is our reference line. Okay, and the next thing to do is I'm going to block in the trees. So if you remember from the picture, it was kind of just one big shape. Kind of looks like mountains. There's some squiggly lines. Just random up and down, up and down. And we have the tops of the trees. So for the people who just came here, these are your supplies. Once again, you just need a couple of different pencils. One light and one dark is pretty much all you need. If you have an eraser, please make sure you also have that. If you're wondering what this is just a squishy eraser called a kneaded eraser, kind of like clay, but you can squish it and make it into different shapes. And I'll pull up the image again so we can look at it. So far we really just did that middle line and then the outline of the trees. All right. So now the next step, once again, back to your lightest pencil, is we're actually going to sketch out the top of that barn house. So the snowy roof, this one. We're going to sketch these out because in a second you'll find out what we're going to use that for. So mine is about in a little bit to the right of the middle. Down here is where my house is going to be. I'm just going to slowly kind of figure out So I'm coming across the top of the house, quite long. And we're just doing a rough outline. Not too much on the details just yet. And I'll pull up the image just again so we can all see this. So this is our picture. If you haven't taken a screenshot, make sure you do take a picture. Yeah, so right now we're just doing this house. I've just done the roof and then kind of the sides. So there was an interesting shape in the middle because there's actually two houses. Once again, how about this? I'll move this over a little bit. And then we can still see the house over here. So over in the picture, there's that little bit, I'm sketching out this part. So this black shape, kind of a triangle. And this divides the front house with the back house. And I'm going to make it clear for you guys and just shade it in. You can also do that. So that's just this shape over here. And then right under, we have the rest of the house. So outline that as well. Notice how I'm not drawing the roof of the second house, I'm just leaving it empty. Gives the impression that something is there. And then you can lightly shade below the white snow. So in this area, just lightly shade, not too hard because we need to come back and erase. You see these windows, these wider planks of wood, I think. We're going to take the eraser later and erase those. But for now, we can shade it in so we can see the house clearer. It's pretty roughly like that. And the same on this side. You can also carve out the snow that's on the ground. So there's an outline for the bottom of the house too. And I just kind of roughly sketch it in. Just that white dividing line. You can fix it as you go if you feel like the snow is too high or maybe too low. And a couple of different areas of details on the roof that you can add in. This chimney and this chimney over here. So this one's about here. Just draw it in. And then this one, first you draw the slant, and then you can just lightly shade in that gray. You don't want to make it too big, it's kind of small. All right. The next step, if you're ready for it, is just this little shack on the outside. Not sure what it is, but there's a box. And it's to the left of the barn houses. And you can see that the bottom of it is a little bit lower. So it's in front of the barn house. About just a little bit. So roughly around here. And it touches the edge of the barn house. That means it's not too far away. So immediately I can kind of tell barn house's corner is going to start there. Maybe a little bit over, like that. And just like how we did the barn house, lightly sketch in the outline. So the edges of the object. And you can compare how wide it is using your pencil or ruler if you really want to get accurate. But it is okay. At this point, you can also just take your eraser and erase away that horizon line if it's overlapping with your object. Right, and then just slowly shade it in. If you squint your eyes, you can kind of see this side is darker than this side. So there's two sides here. This one's larger, first of all, and then it's also a shade darker. So when you're shading, you can make your pressure a little bit heavier. But still light. And then you might also want to outline the top where there's that little layer of snow. And then it connects to the house in the back. Oops. Just cleaning up the edge a little bit. Now I'm also shading this area in between so it doesn't look like there's a gap in the middle. Now, whenever you're ready, the next step, if you can see here, there's kind of a little thing. Looks like a doghouse, very small, this white little bit. So let's zoom in. Looks kind of just like a box, or maybe something with snow on the top. You're going to take your eraser, any eraser, and try your best to find that smallest edge, so the sharpest part on your eraser. Maybe not on the corner here, but just wherever you can get the smallest point, because we're going to do some detail erasing. So this is a detail in our picture. We're going to carve it out essentially. Right now we just have gray. You're going to carve using your eraser. So kind of like drawing with white. Slowly kind of scratch out the impression of this object here. It's going to be a little bit hard if you're working on small paper, but it doesn't have to be super detailed. Just something small and white that's in the corner over here. And then dust away. So as you can see, mine is not very clear. But with any erasing, you can always come back and add in the details. So with my pencil again, I'm just going to make the shape a bit more clear. So over here we have this little bit. Kind of got a little square here. The detail is so small, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but it's very fun to add random things to make your picture more interesting. Let me zoom back out so you have the full image. Okay, and now we have this third building on the right. So just the same thing that you did for this one, sketch the outline of the white area and then shade in the dark areas. You can always use your pencil to compare where things are. So I'm using it kind of like a ruler. This is called landmarking. So that building is very far in the background. Almost sits exactly on the horizon line. And it's about a little bit narrower than that. So we can compare, it's about this wide, and it's just on the corner. So first I do the outline. It's about the same height. Yep. Oops. And then just shade that in. You can shade however you like, but usually we go in one direction first, so hatching. But because it's so dark, you can't really tell that much of a difference. I like to go up down because it gives the impression of wood planks on a barn. Sometimes they go sideways too. Then take the eraser and just clean up that edge down on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next step, which is going to be the background. You can do whatever. I'm going to leave this one for last. Just make sure you leave the tractor for last because especially if you are right-handed, it's right in the corner. And if you're moving your hand around, it's going to smudge. So leave this lovely little piece in the front for the last little bit. Otherwise, we're going to jump to the background. So in our picture, there's a couple of things. We just did the middle ground, so the objects that are in the middle. We're going to move on to the background, which is this huge block of trees, which are basically, it's just one area of gray. So today we're going to do a little bit of smudging, quite a lot actually. So if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you can always get maybe just a tissue paper, or you can just use your fingers and just smudge. Otherwise, you can always get something to smudge with. And we're going to shade in the entire background in one shade of gray first. So a middle gray, not too dark, not too light, all of it one tone. We can do this because there's no snow. Well, we could also do it if there's snow. But basically we're going to start light. So the lightest trees in the back, smudge, and then go a little bit darker for these darker trees, and then smudge a little again, and then we'll build up the trees. So let's go and begin shading the background. Just keep using your lightest pencil for now. If you like to go darker, you can switch pencils. I'm going to take my regular 3B and just start shading however you like. I just go sideways, kind of following my natural wrist movement. So you always want to pick the easiest way, most comfortable way of shading, especially if you are shading large areas because it can get tiring really quickly. Keep your arm relaxed. You can go right to left, left to right, however you want, because we are going to smudge and blend all of this later. And don't worry about keeping inside the lines. You can go a little bit outside, a little bit inside. We can keep this natural or clean it up later. So just take your time and fill in the background. Going to sharpen my pencil. And I want to keep it flat on the side. If this is your paper, you kind of want to tilt it as almost like this of an angle. Not too high, not too low. And just take your time when you're going around the buildings. Okay, and now if you're ready, either using your finger or paper towel, if you don't want to blend, that is okay too. If you prefer more of a texture look, you do not have to smudge. But I'm going to take a small little bit of tissue paper. The softer your paper, the better. I'm only using this, you can tell it's kind of rough paper. If you have Kleenex, so the softer kind, that works better. But use whatever is at your disposal. You kind of want to fold it into a triangle shape. If you've done this before, you already know this. Just wrap it around 1 or 2 fingers. I just do 1 finger, sometimes the middle finger, and you just kind of hold it like a band-aid. And then just start smudging. You can test it out in one area and see how you like it. You see how it becomes blurry. That's kind of the effect that you want to go for. Go in small little circles. And when you're going around the edges, you can fold your paper really tightly and just use the tip of your nail to get those little corner bits. This is great for doing any foggy and misty landscapes. So when it rains, or if you're doing clouds, it'll give you that nice and soft blended feeling. And then just keep going. You'll notice that sometimes it gets darker or maybe lighter. That's because we're filling in all the white spaces with the extra graphite. Okay. Once you're done blending, you can take an eraser and start carving out the top of this tree line. If you can see here, it's kind of, ours is a very soft, kind of like mountains or clouds. But if you want the tips of the trees a little bit sharper, let's take your eraser and kind of like drawing with white, just go along the edge and give yourself that texture back. So I'm going to start here. And this should usually work if your shading was light, not too heavy. You can kind of see. You want to use a sharp edge on your eraser as well. Just kind of like scrub away at the edges. So you get these almost like teeth marks. You can tilt your eraser back and forth. You can do a little bit of left and then right, kind of like brushing your teeth, left and right. Let's see how it's going. Okay, I'm going to take the paper towel again, not blend the trees. I'm just going to blend this line. If you can see, there's that horizon line that I sketched. I'm just going to get rid of that by gently smudging inside the barn houses. It was just bothering me a little bit, but if it still shows up, that's fine too. Same with this side, but we need to make this a little bit darker afterwards. Otherwise, it looks like it blends into the trees. Okay, now with the pencil again, I'm just going to make the edges of the buildings a little bit crisper because it's become very soft. So at any point, you can just take a pencil and then bring back those defining edges. And the same with this building. This time you can even go up and down. So if you look in the picture, there are these lines, almost like a fence going around the outside. Because I know we're not going to touch the houses anymore, or that they're mostly done, we can start bringing in some of these details. With this house, the planks kind of go sideways. So instead of going up and down, you can copy the texture by going side to side, left to right. Okay, back to the trees and the background. You can take this pencil, or I'm going to move on to my darker pencil, which is a 6B. If you want to keep using the same one, that's fine. Just press a little bit harder. We're going to carve in these trees, sketch in these trees. So taking your pencil, just like how we did the shading, I like to go side to side, kind of like random toothbrush marks to shade in the trees. So instead of sketching the outline out, just go in and kind of squiggly in your branches and leaves and whatnot. If it helps, you can start at the bottom and add some of these imaginary trunks. So very at the base. It's kind of like a cluster of trees down here. This will make a lot more sense when you start building up the layers. So at first you can maybe go in this direction and then switch directions a little bit. You want it to look random and natural. So change the angle of your hatching. Tilt it this way and then tilt it this way. At the same time, you don't want it to look too organic, otherwise it looks abstract, almost like computer generated. Give it some movement, but enough that it makes sense. So follow the growth of the tree. Where are the leaves going? Are they branching out to the side, or are they going up? It's very dense in this area. And a little bit more empty around the edges. You're just going to keep doing this around up to here. I'm just going to erase this part a little bit because in the picture, there's almost like that, like there's a hill behind the trees. I think it looks nice, so I'm going to try and add that back in. So I'm raising the horizon line. So now that it looks like the snow starts higher than it did before, we have some grass instead. Okay, anyways, back to the trees. Basically, do the same thing for all of these dark areas. So over here, we have a little bit of a lighter tree that's kind of further in the back. And then we have these trees, which are the same darkness. And then over top, we have these trees that are a little bit more in the front. So let's work from the back to the front. So over here, behind the house, you can add a little bit of a darker gray area to show that there's something back there worth our interest. So I like to start at the tops of the trees and just work my way down. And then kind of just like scrub my way back to the middle. This one's a little bit lighter than the other one. So make sure you're not pressing too hard. You want some variation between your tones. It's a little bit darker when we get to the right side. There's also, if you can see here in the back over here, there's that little fence that's running along the back. You don't have to sketch this in, but if you do want to, you're actually not going to draw the white line, but darken everything else around it. So for example, if you want to put in the fence, I would outline white areas and then darken everything around it. So what looks gray now looks white, kind of. Or you can take an eraser if your eraser is sharp enough. Lightly erase away as much as you can. This requires a lot of precision and it doesn't make too much of a difference. If you don't want to add the fence, just keep it open. Anyways, back to the trees. I just put in this black building over here as well. Just shade in the little shape, show that there's something in the distance. Okay, now the image will really start to come together when we add these small trees. So the standalone trees that are in the front, as well as this one, if you can see it, there's two. So they're a little bit lower. They start almost at the line of the houses, on the same plane as the houses. I'm going to start with this tree over here. Zoom in so you can kind of see the shape. But all you really need to do is to get the organic feeling into it. So how I'm going to hold my pencil really changes everything. So I'm going to hold it kind of at the side, and you want to get the tip down, kind of like wedge it into the paper. Make sure it's lined up. And just kind of let the pencil almost roll. And there's your first stem. So I don't like to draw it in because it comes out too artificial. Just let the pencil roll its shape naturally. Draw the main branches first. This one's going to be quite dark. And then now you can add the tiny branches that are coming out, kind of like whiskers. But they're not too round, still got some curves and angles to it. And repeat for all these other little trees. So press hard, just let it roll up to the top. You can do different trees at the same time. Change the way that they're going so they all don't look like the same tree. Sometimes you can't really see what's going on and you can just leave it blank like that. There's a little bit of a tall tree over here. I love the texture of the branches that it's giving, but it is lighter. So if you compare this gray with the branch of this tree, this one's much darker. This one's just kind of a dark gray instead of totally black. So don't press too hard, keep it light. You can add however many trees as you like. And then on to the other side, there's a tiny tree over here. You can keep this one pretty light. Kind of like a baby tree. There's a lot of tiny trees in the back over here. If you can see 1, 2, 3, there's so many. So you can add as many as you'd like in random places. We have one tall tree. So let's add that in there. Pressing hard into the paper and then just letting the pencil roll up. Like roll. And then fade away. When you are done your trees, the next step is to do our last little bit here, which is the trailer that we left for last. So whenever you're ready, we can move back to our regular sketching pencil if you weren't using it. And then we're going to transition down to this bottom right corner over here. I think we need to zoom out a little bit. So right now I'm just looking. And seeing where I want the trailer to be. Or where it is on the picture. So we know it's kind of in the bottom right corner. You know, our drawing would be in this rectangle of the space. And we're going to do a lot of landmarking. So the outermost edges, we're going to find the most left corner, most right part of the object, and lowest and highest part, and then work inwards. So first, farthest left is about the middle of these buildings over here. So I know the tractor is quite wide. I'm going to draw a light landmark line to show me where the object is on the left side. Okay, do the same on the right. In the picture, it's about very close to the edge, not touching. It's down here. So we're just boxing in this object. So we have a place to start. Now the topmost object, I'm going to ignore whatever these little things are, like the antennae, but focus on the bulk of the object. So where are these ladders? Or whatever these are? Where's the top of the railing? If there's nothing to compare to, you can take your pencil and measure this length, so this height, and then just roughly use your eyeball and guess where it is compared to the middle. So I would divide this in the middle. It's a little bit above. So there's the top of my object. Then we're going to divide that with the bottom, cut in the middle. If this is the middle, then my tire is about here. So compare to the middle, it's a little bit lower. Okay, so now we have the foundation for our object. Now we need to find the angles, so the perspective. This trailer is tilted, so it's not facing us, it's kind of going this way. And it doesn't have to be totally on the spot, but just get a rough idea of what the angle's like. Always compare it to the image, or use your hand. But just get a rough feeling of where everything is. And you just want to draw these perspective lines, kind of like guiding lines. Showing the resting position of this object, because there are a lot of parts, but if we have the perspective going, then it makes it easier for us. And these are all construction lines. Construction lines are the lines that we will erase later. So first I'm going to draw the top of this. I know that's the top, and then that's the furthest edge. I think it needs to be a little bit more tilted. That's just my preference. And then you can compare this to the other ladder. I'm not sure what this is exactly, but I'm going to call it the other ladder. So there's one here, and there's this one. So I'm just going to compare the top. It's almost like a trapezoid. And not all the way to the edge, because the furthest right is not this, but it's actually that. Which is, this looks like a little sign. Okay, but at one point, when you feel like you're ready to just start adding in the details, you can just start adding them. Before that, let's add in the tires first. So there's two parts to this trailer. There's the top metal bit, and then there's the actual wheels on the bottom. But you can think of it like one part. So down here, the wheel's actually quite near the middle, and it's submerged in the snow. So make sure you show that. So there's the first, oh, that looks a bit weird. That's okay. Probably gonna move that one later. Maybe I should have measured the wheels first. That's a little too far. That's the axle. And same with down here. Just drew that. And then there's the axle between the wheels. Then I'm going to shade in the tires. Going around the snow. It's actually quite a lot of complicated things going on. We have the snow, which makes it very difficult to draw. But let's draw in the frames anyway. It's kind of like a light gray. You can always go back and erase the snow parts afterwards. But now let's just sketch in what we can. So these bars are very close together near the end and then further apart at the front, because things get closer together the further apart they are. I do want to be mindful of everyone's time, so if you need to go, feel free to leave. But I am going to sit here and just finish this little bit and then wrap it up. They're all together with these little bars across the middle. And of course, these bars as well. So these are probably like the darkest. I'm just completely ignoring the snow at this point. If you feel like you want to add the snow back in, use an eraser and just see if you can erase some of that. And you get the impression of snow. Oh, and I'm just going to add this wooden post at the end as well. Kind of just like 3 sticks. Last step is to erase the construction lines. And if you still feel it's incomplete, and add a little bit of a shadow underneath this trailer. So use your pencil and just slightly sketch underneath. There are some really dark parts, kind of like the soil, the dirt coming out. I forgot whatever these are. There's something sticking out. If anybody knows, please let me know. I don't know what that is. Okay. And I think we are done.